Well, hello my fellow thrivers and worshipers. This video is actually kind of special. It's another one of my worship choreographed dances. Sorry, it's loud in the background because once again I'm in an RV and there's not a ton of privacy. I felt the need to actually explain some things about this dance. It's really special because I've gone through so much recently, and this song has literally been like the anthem of my heart lately. Definitely when I first heard the song, I really liked it, but honestly at the time it didn't really speak to me as much. It wasn't until a friend of mine posted the lyrics on one of her feeds, on one of her posts on Facebook, that it started jumping out to me, because the part of the song that she posted was exactly what was happening in my life. It says, Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. And that's truly what he has been lately for me. Definitely making all these ways. I've had so many desires in my heart, and I didn't understand any of them because I couldn't make them happen. Like, nothing just would work. I just wasn't able to receive those desires. I guess I just had to wait for his timing and for him to make a way, and that's exactly what he has done. He's making a way right now. I've always wanted to go traveling with my family. I've wanted to be able to homeschool my kids with my husband. I didn't want to be at home alone. I wanted my husband with me. Not in an emasculating way. I mean, he still works. Work, as we define it in this society, is really not exactly the same as how it's defined in the Word. Men simply need to work, and if they're doing things for the family, providing for the family, that could be something as simple as growing a garden, putting a garden in, or building a house. You know, it doesn't have to be what we do in this society, which is to go and work for someone else. And so my desire is to be working alongside my husband when it comes to the family, but even other things. I have other desires, and those things have not come to pass yet. But a lot of desires I've had are God's making a way for them. And so this is a special dance here for me. I've had it on my mind to create a dance for it for a while, but I just couldn't. There was way too much going on in my life, and now that things are settling down and we are basically on our way and starting a new chapter, last night I was able to create a dance for it. And I love the simplicity of the dance. The song is quite simple itself, and I've been feeling for a while we need to return to the simplicity and innocence of worship. Oftentimes we make things too complicated. Many of my dances are complicated, and that was kind of frustrating for me for a while, because I have been feeling the need to go simple, and I couldn't make it happen. I guess it just wasn't the timing. But this has really inspired me, and I was able to keep it simple. It was flawless to make it simple, and I love it. It just feels like the innocence of worship. So the first part of the dance is especially simplistic. The second part, I feel, is I just really want to be able to explain to you guys the second part, because the second part describes how he's a waymaker. And so you see how I am putting my arms out like there's a way in front of me and it's coming open. I feel like being able to do this at the beach, this dance, is significant because the beach reminds me of the Red Sea, and there have been so many times recently that people have spoken to me about how God's making a way, like the parting of the sea, and walking through the waters of Jericho, called the Jordan, where there's another experience where God parts the waters and the people are miraculously able to walk through. This time in my life has been an exodus. Through and through. This is an exodus. And I don't know if you saw my last video, but there have been some really hard things that we have experienced lately, and it's been painful. And I just can't help but think about the children of Israel when they were in Egypt. I mean, that was hard. That had to have been hard for them. That had to have been painful. They all grew up there. It's not like they lived elsewhere. This was their lives. That's all they knew for hundreds of years. So we're talking generations. They didn't know anything else. So having to leave everything behind like that had to have been really painful. But at the same time, I'm sure they were anxious to get out and away because they had been so badly oppressed. And I'm sure they were anxious to get away from all those plagues, even though they weren't experiencing them. After the third one, they didn't experience it. Surely being able to look on up to Egypt and see what was going on, that had to have been scary. I wouldn't want to be that close in proximity to something like that. So the part where you see it's parting the waters, you know, it's like he's making a way in front of me. And then you see how I bring it up and come together like he is providing for me. Because when you spend time in prayer and he speaks to you and makes promises to you, because he does that. He's done exactly that for me when I'm in that secret place, and he does speak to me, and he has made promises to us that we've had to wait a really long time to receive. A great example is land. My husband has always wanted land. I've always known him that way. In fact, when we first got married, I did not want that at all. I was okay with an acre, but I did not want, he wants like 50 or to 100. He'd take hundreds, even thousands of acres. That was not me. I've always been a city girl. Over time, God changed my desire. So I know this comes from him. I know that desire comes from God. So we see now that we are very close to receiving that promise. He has promised us that we will have land, and we are very close. We see the path and how it's going to happen. So he is our promise keeper. That's what that represents. And then the light in the darkness, where I bring my arms up and then cover my eyes. This is pretty significant to me. And many of you, I'm sure, who have practiced the Messianic way. There is a tradition, and I need to be careful of the way I word things because people get confused about this. They see the word tradition in the Bible and they automatically think, oh no, that's bad. But if you really look closely to the Greek and to the Hebrew, it's not talking about traditions that are born out of biblical meanings, out of biblical symbolism. It's talking about traditions of men and pagan traditions. Totally different things. One way is for man's way, the other way is for God's way. It's symbolic of God's way is what I mean. So when I say tradition, that's what I'm talking about. There is a tradition, a Jewish tradition called the lighting of the candles. I can't remember what the Hebrew is, but the lighting of the candles. And we do this every Friday as a symbolic way to remember and remind ourselves that we kindle lights because the lights represent the light of the world.
Sit down and be quiet.
Which is Yeshua, God. And when we do this lighting of the candles, traditionally also it is the woman, because the woman is the one who brought the light into the world. Or God used the woman as the vessel to bring the light into the world. When we kindle the candles, the lights of the candles, we put our hands over our eyes as a gesture to remind ourselves that once we were in the dark, and to remember what the dark looks like. And we cover our eyes, and we say our prayers, which is, "Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has commanded us concerning Shabbat." Shabbat is a joyful and light experience. It's light is a pleasant thing. We wouldn't be able to see anything if we didn't have any light. And in a way, Shabbat brings the light in. So after we are through saying this prayer, we have our hands over our eyes. We lift our hands off of our eyes, and the very first thing that we see is the light. So that part of the dance is significant because I was in dark once, but now I see the light. And we do that 2 times. And then from there, it's just praising Elohim. So I felt the need to explain and describe this dance to you guys and what it meant for me. And, you know, I just want to share with you guys, when I was on the beach and doing this dance, there was this beautiful bald eagle that appeared and perched itself on a pole, a pretty high pole that is right out here as kind of like a marker, so that people know, like, this is the direction you need to take off of the beach to get to where this RV park is. And it perched itself on there shortly after I started dancing, and it just stood there. It was almost like it was watching me. And to me personally, that was a gift. Not only are bald eagles beautiful, but they represent some special things in the word. But for me personally, as I was going through this really hard time, I felt like I was in a prison. And I was in prayer a lot for quite a while, because it was so painful, and I had to cling to the Father through the whole experience, because at times I felt like I was being crushed by the pain and misery and stress and everything else. And so as I'm clinging to the Father, he kept giving me these images. I'm not sure if I would call them visions or not. They're not like what most people think, which is an open vision. But I kept getting the same image. And I know it did not come from me. And the image I kept getting was of a young bird, maybe about this little, right, in a large cage. And it started off really liking that cage because nothing could come in and attack it. It was comfortable in that cage. It fit well in that cage. It could move in that cage. But it grew and it grew and it grew, and it got to the point where it was hunched over and could not move at all. Definitely couldn't spread its wings, and it wanted to spread its wings. And it was extremely uncomfortable. And I looked up one day and I said, "Lord, what are you trying to explain to me? What is this? What does this mean?" And he told me
What do you got in your hand?
that the cage is where I'm at now. Because I was very much being oppressed and not allowed to use my gifts where I was. At least not to the full extent that I knew that the Father wanted me to do it. And so I kept getting forced down. And he also said that the bird is me. I am ready to spread my wings. I am ready to fly, but I'm stuck in a cage. And he said I needed to trust in him because he was going to release me. He was going to make a way for me to escape from that cage. I mean, it made me cry on multiple occasions because I knew he was definitely speaking to me, because that is absolutely how I felt. And when we moved down here to Ocean Shores, where we're at now, we moved our RV from Elma, Washington, because our time ran out there, and so now here we are in Ocean Shores. Not quite out of Washington, but far enough away from all of our friends we can't go visit them. I feel free. I mean, it seems like the further I get away from Tacoma, the freer I feel. And so when those eagles showed up, I really felt like he was telling me, I have released you. You are free now. It makes me so happy, even though I've left so many friends behind that I love so much.
Keep that up and I will.
God knew this is what I needed. So those eagles really were just gorgeous to watch, and I captured some wonderful videos of them. So without further ado, here's what I have for the dance. I hope you enjoy it. There are only 2 parts and it's really simple. So tell me what you guys think. I love you. Bye-bye.
You are here, moving in the midst. I worship you, I worship you. You are here, working in this place. I worship you, I worship you. You are here, moving in our midst. I worship you, I worship you. You are here, working in this place. I worship you, I worship you. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You are here, touching every heart. I worship you, I worship you. You are here, healing every heart. Oh, I worship you, Jesus. Yes, it is, yeah. It's who you are, waymaker. Let's sing this together, even when I don't see it. Come on, even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Come on. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop, yeah. Even when I don't see it, you're working. You never stop. You're the waymaker, waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Oh, that is who you are. Oh, and that is who you are. That is who you are. Oh, that is who you are. Oh, it's who you are, my Jesus. Miracle worker. That is who you are, waymaker, light in the darkness. Oh, his name is above depression. His name is above loneliness. Oh, his name is above disease. His name is above cancer. His name is above every other name. Listen.